These 4 braids are all knotless braids, but you're probably wondering, why do they all look different? If you've ever gotten knotless braids and wondered why they're too heavy or maybe they're a little boneless, then this is the video for you. Grab your notes and let's get started. The first braid I'm going to demonstrate for you is the heavier one. It is what I like to call the fatty knotless. A lot of braiders just tend to braid this way because that's just what they do. And a lot of clients will choose them because they like a much fuller look. The downside to getting a heavier knotless is that if your hair is not strong enough to hold the weight, you can experience a lot of breakage or traction alopecia because gravity does take a toll. Now, if you're a braider who consistently does this but doesn't want your knotless to look this way, it's because one, you're adding too much hair. So you're adding a lot of hair in the root and each of your pieces are a little too big. Now, the pro side of knowing how to do this type of knotless is for certain client needs. So if your client has really short hair, especially this tends to happen at the nape, you need to add more hair at the root so that you can have something to work with as you move along. Also, this works if your client has a blunt cut. Why? Because for a blunt cut, especially if it's thick from root to tip, you need more hair to tuck the hair in. And you can see right here, this is where I'm tucking those ends in. So if her hair was cut off bluntly and those ends were like really choppy, I would need a whole lot more hair to tuck that hair in. Now, this client's natural hair has more than enough strength to carry the weight of a braid like this. However, it is not my preferred method. When you use large pieces, it can be difficult to conceal it and make it look more like a knotless seamless braid. In my experience, clients tend to complain if their knotless are too heavy because that's really not the idea for it. It is supposed to be an extension of your own hair, but to each his own. Everybody has their preferences, and if this is how you braid, you go girl, get that bag. The next braid I'm going to show you is my preferred way of doing knotless. When you're done with this video, make sure you go check out our rule of 3 video. I use the rule of 3 for all of my braiding techniques. So what I'm doing here is I've pulled out a piece of hair that I want the knotless to be the density of. Now I'm going to basically split it into 2. Now for each of those 2 sides, I'm going to split them into 3, and I'm going to prep them on my rack. This is how I'm able to keep the braids consistent throughout the entire process of braiding the head. Breaking down the braid one braid at a time into smaller pieces will help you with a more seamless transition. Also, by counting your pieces, it can help you maintain cadence and help you speed up your braiding. Now, if the client's hair is long enough and dense enough, I like to start it off with their natural hair. Once I've locked in the natural hair, then I can start adding in my braiding hair. And let's count together. That was 1. Now we have 2. Now we have 3. 4, 5, 6. Now that I have enough hair added in, I can begin my tucking process. This is why at most salons or with most braiders, but in my salon in particular, we require a minimum of 4 inches of length of hair so that we have something to add it to. And that's 4 inches for medium, 3 inches for small. Also, don't let this 6 number be your solid number for every braid. Every client's hair density is going to be different, and if they have very thick hair, you may not need to add as much. If they have very fine hair, you may need to add more. So let's not get hung up in the amount of hair that you add. Just focus on how do you create consistent results with every client. Another question I get often is how do you maintain the thickness and density as you move along? As I've done here, just add very small trace amounts as you move down the braid, and it will continue to build up. It's something that comes with practice over time. So if you're an overthinker like myself, overthinking tends to slow you down. Try to focus on one braid at a time. And here's a side-by-side comparison of the first braid and the second braid. As you can see, the second one is a little bit more seamless. We have a gradual build, and we're using the weight of the natural hair to support the braid. I use about 1/3 less of hair, so the sizing is a bit smaller, but I was still able to get a nice seamless tuck, and the knotless looks like an extension of her hair. Now on to everyone's favorite. I believe social media has officially dubbed this the Boneless Knotless. Now I don't believe there is an official dictionary term for this yet, but I think we can all agree that the definition is when the size of the part does not match the size of the braid. Now believe it or not, clients do request this look. Why they request it? Really none of my business. My job is just to perform the service. I do see sometimes braiders will try to defend it by saying that, oh, I braid with the density of the hair, which is a valid argument. However, there's a difference between what your client asks for and what you are able to actually service. You'll see in what I demonstrated above, all I'm doing is braiding her hair and adding in pieces where the hair becomes thinner. The downside to that is the tucking is going to be very minimal. So this is really a true extension of your natural hair. The thick hair girlies, you probably will not be able to pull this off. If you have a blunt cut, it's going to look weird. So if I ever do get a client who asks for this particular style, I make sure that I let them know all of the pros and cons that come with it and allow them to decide from there. This method works very well when you're working with smaller sizes and thick hair because you're putting in a lot more braids. You're going to need a lot less hair to fill up all that space. It is virtually undetectable when you are using hair that blends correctly with the color of the client's hair, but as you can see here, we're using a different color hair, so I wanted to make sure I had enough hair at the ends to tuck her ends in properly. Again, there is nothing wrong with boneless knotless or braiding with the density of your client's hair. I just think it's more important to be educated on the different types so you can educate your clients properly on their decisions with their hair. Because as braiders, our job is not just to perform the service, but it is to help you protect the integrity of your hair no matter what hair journey you're on. And from a customer service standpoint, educating your clients on the front end before you even get started will help you mitigate any issues you have on the back end or any miscommunications you might have. You need to be on the same page before you jump into anything you're not sure about. The last braid I'm going to show you is kind of technically not a knotless braid, but it's more like the illusion of a knotless braid. This technique comes in so handy for my very fine haired clients or clients who have bald spots or missing patches, like if there was a patch right here and I needed to cover it up, or even if there's a weak spot in the perimeter hairline. This technique comes in so handy if your client wants knotless braids but they have just a few issues here and there. So I like to call this the graduated box braid because I'm starting the root with a very small piece of hair as if I'm going to start a box braid. So it kind of wraps everything around at the root, and then once I get everything locked in, then I can start adding in my pieces one by one and build the braid up. I used to see this technique often in the early days of everyone learning how to do knotless because it was still a work in progress. And most of us OGs, all we did was box braids. But not gonna lie, I see a whole lot more requests for traditional box braids, and it's starting to come back around. So if you notice you're getting a lot of requests and you're a knotless braider who still can't do box braids, you might want to get your skills up. And if you're an OG braider like myself and you are still rocking it with these box braids, drop those strong arms in the comments below. Another reason this technique comes in handy is if you're braiding your own hair and you want the knotless look but you still struggle with grip. My hair is a prime example. I have a very soft, fine texture hair. I have a lot of it, but it's very soft, fine texture and will not hold a braid, especially because it's short. So the graduated method works perfectly for me when I'm doing my own hair, and it keeps everything nice and secure with the knotless look. So that completes today's video, you guys. I honestly felt like I needed to do this because I was seeing so much discourse online about what's right and what's wrong. But if you guys have been with us for a while, you know braiding is a subjective art form, meaning beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Everyone has their personal preference and way of doing things, and sometimes what we create is completely out of our control. It's what our client wants. Not only is it our job to stay educated, it is our job to educate our clients. So let's remember to be kind to one another in these comments. And clients, please remember we cannot read your mind. Inspo pic definitely help. Proactive communication definitely help get you whatever it is you're looking for. Remember, teamwork makes the dream work. As always, if you learned something, make sure you like this video and give it a big thumbs up and share it with a friend. Drop in the comments which of these techniques are your preferred method of knotless. If you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button on your way out, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!